YouTube, what is going on? Welcome back to the channel, and today we are going to be taking a look at my 50-mile full review of the Nike ZoomX Invincible Run Flyknit. This is a very optimistically made shoe because we all know that ZoomX foam as one of the premier racing midsole foams because it's lightweight and it has a lot of pop. A lot to be excited about here, but does the ZoomX Invincible actually hold up to all of that hype? Well, we're gonna find out right now, so let's get into it. The Nike ZoomX Invincible Run is changing the game among highly cushioned daily trainers with an innovative concept which optimally blends cushioning, responsiveness, and support. The Invincible delivers the ultimate daily training package with a unique underfoot experience. Okay. That's all the marketing hype. You got the real description of what they want you to think when you put this shoe on. But did this shoe actually make the cut in my heart and in my shoe rotation? We're gonna find out. But first, let's get on to the specs, starting with the stack height. Coming in at 39 millimeters in the heel and 30 millimeters in the forefoot, we are looking at a total heel to toe drop of 9 millimeters. This definitely felt closer to a 10 millimeter than it did to like an 8 millimeter. After I've been running in a ton of shoes, I could tell the difference. And I'm sure many of you can as well. So just be aware of that when you're trying the shoe. If you like a shoe to feel like a lower drop, this is probably not gonna deliver that. So take that into account when you're considering your shoe buying options. But that does it for the stack height. Let's move on to the weight of the shoe. Coming in at 9.3 ounces in a men's size 9 and at 8.1 ounces in a women's size 8. I am super impressed with that weight given the sheer amount of midsole foam there is stacked in this shoe. The fact that they can put this much foam, beef it up like that, have such a responsive ride, and keep the weight under 9.5 ounces for men, like, honestly, I was super impressed with that weight. So you're gonna see a score pop up over here, and I think that's gonna reflect how I feel right now. But that does it for the weight. Now we are gonna move on to the fit of the shoe. Just so you guys know, I am usually an 11.5 standard in most running shoes. Whenever I use a Nike shoe that has the Flyknit material in the name, I always go a half size down. And for me, that works wonders as far as fit goes, because I often notice that it's a lot looser. So what I will say, I won't recommend that for everyone here, but if you often have trouble fitting into the Flyknit shoes, but you kind of like the ride of them, I would say to try a half size down and experiment with that. We are gonna move on to the overall upper design. So let's get into that right now. They are using a full Flyknit construction for the upper here, but I will say this may be the best Flyknit upper I've ever used in a Nike shoe. And it's sturdy and it wraps around the back very nicely. So I would say it's a great mix of breathability and lockdown. The lacing system, super easy to use. I love how the tongue, which is fully gusseted by the way, sits on top of my foot. I would say it's enough cushion, but it's not too much cushion to where I feel like it's over cumbersome over the top of my foot. I don't like that, but I do like a little bit of padding because quite honestly, I got a bony foot. What are we gonna do about it? Looking at the heel counter, you can see the heel counter is fairly stiff, but there's a lot of cushioning wrapping around your ankle too, which I think aids in my lockdown, especially because I got some pretty skinny ankles. I'd say you do get a little bit of support from that heel counter, and also this plastic TPU wrap around the midsole that adds a little stabilization feature laterally and medially. And I think that actually acts as a stabilizing feature because the ZoomX foam tends to be a little bit uneven and a little bit off balance, especially when you're in the stack height of this shoe. So I think that was a good addition to the shoe as far as a stabilization feature and a stability feature. So thumbs up on that. You will see the lockdown score pop up here, and you're gonna see my overall score for the upper. And as you can see, I was fairly impressed with it. As far as breathability goes, again, great. Lockdown, really good, especially when you're kind of wearing something that they mean to be a more high performance trainer. That does it for the upper. We are gonna move on to the midsole. They made my job super easy with this one. We are looking at a full-length ZoomX midsole foam from front to back, top to bottom. It is stacked. And let me tell you, they did a killer job with this midsole foam. Like I said, I've gotten over 70 miles in it at this point. The foam still has the pop that it had in the first run. Something I'm realizing about that ZoomX foam is if you put enough of it in there and you get rid of a carbon plate, then you can do a lot in this shoe. I have really been enjoying easy runs at like 8-minute pace on the road in this thing, but then I've also been opting for this shoe to run pretty much all of my fartleks and tempo runs in as well. Because to be honest, some days I wake up and I just want running to feel a little easier, and the Invincible definitely does that for me. So I gotta give a big up to that ZoomX foam. There may be some small durability concerns as we move forward, because I'd love to see how this handles going upwards of 100, but right now, I've been very impressed with it going over 50 miles and having very little change in the overall look of the midsole. It hasn't packed down, and the overall performance of the midsole. So that's all I really gotta say about that. You are gonna see the overall energy return and ride score, and you are gonna see that overall midsole score. That's a little bit lower because of the durability concerns I have moving forward, but I'd say so far, so good. And that does it for the midsole, so we are gonna move on to the outsole, which is a full-length rubber waffle pattern. This is definitely there to protect any exposed ZoomX foam that may be occurring, and as you can see, I just wanna note here, it doesn't really matter about the off-balance nature of the ZoomX foam because you are just having such a wide platform from your heel and your toe off, and that outsole rubber comprehensively covers all of it without adding too much to the weight. I feel like it's a super well-balanced shoe, and to be honest, as you can see, as you've heard, I've gotten over 50 miles in this thing, and I'm seeing very little wear and tear across this outsole. So, been very impressed with that. You can see a little bit up on the toes because that's where I've been running a lot of my workouts, on my toes, but other than that, this outsole still lasting really well throughout my miles on the road and on dirt. Moving on to my positives and drawbacks of the shoe, starting with the positive, it's gotta be that ZoomX foam that's so bouncy, has so much energy return, but then can also double as an easy day shoe and just make 8-minute pace feel super comfortable as well. I just think the range on this shoe is amazing, and I think I gotta give a lot of that to the way they've constructed this ZoomX midsole foam. So that's my positive there. I don't know what else to say about that. It's just dope. You can't fix good, you know what I'm saying? So let's keep the ball rolling to my drawback, which is gonna be kind of like a really narrow toe box at the front. I know I said they have a really wide platform here, which is not gonna be a big issue for everyone. I think the wide platform here is even gonna suit a lot of wide feet, but I will say, if you tend to have longer toes like me, I've been having some issues kind of at the very tip of the toe box, where I feel like my toes have had to scrunch up kind of in this upper quadrant here. It's not so much where I want to complain about it, but it has given me a couple of blisters on the front of my big toes. So that's a point of concern for me, kind of an agitation. I think it's worth mentioning to you guys, especially if y'all got longer toes like me. Be aware of that in the very front of the toe box. Moving on to my durability prediction, I will say that even though I have my concerns about this, I'm still going all in on, I think you're gonna get 400 to 500 quality miles out of this shoe. I think you're gonna be able to wear this in your workouts, in your long runs, in your easy runs for upwards of 500 miles and still have it be like your go-to trainer. I don't know how it's gonna pack down over 300 or 400 miles yet, but I have a fairly good idea that it's gonna last you many, many miles, especially if you kind of treat it well. So I gotta give love to the durability. You're gonna see that score here, especially for the concerns I had before I bought it, because all we know about the ZoomX foam is when you see it on the Pegasus Turbo or even like the Next Percent, it rubs out and packs down pretty quickly, but they've seemed to pack it really well in here to where that hasn't been as big of an issue. So gotta give love on that durability prediction. Moving on to what I think this shoe is best for. This is a shoe I could wear all 7 days of the week, no matter what run, workout, or long run I had. Like I said, I've been enjoying going 8-minute pace in this thing, but then I also love doubling back and like hitting a tempo run and then a progression long run in this thing as well. Like these things are great. Even fartleks where I'm getting down to like 430, 440 pace, this thing still moves there and it almost returns more energy the more speed I put on it. So very impressed with that. I'm just gonna put a fat list of everything I think you could use this shoe for, but it goes pretty much from easy runs all the way down to faster workouts and maybe even road racing for some people. That may be a cold take or a hot take. I don't know what y'all think about that, but I could imagine myself running a couple of road races in this thing, especially if I'm feeling a little dinged up and I just want a shoe that like gets me through the race feeling good. Maybe it's not an A race, maybe it's a training race, but you just hop in there and you just want to put in some work and you don't want a shoe with a carbon plate, but you also don't want a shoe that like detracts from your racing experience and leaves you ready to go the next day. Boom, this is a shoe for that. Y'all may see a YouTube video of me racing in this thing at some point, so stay tuned, baby, stay tuned. But now we have to move on to the price, which is set at a depressing $180. That's pricey as f***, but honestly, because of the enjoyment I've had in the shoe, I have to allow it. I have to give him a little props. Yes, this shoe should be closer to 160 or even 150 to be honest, but I already own the shoe, I already bought the shoe and I've really been enjoying it and I haven't thought twice about the price I paid for it. So I would say if you're on a budget, definitely not the shoe for you. There's plenty of other great shoes lower in the price spectrum, but if I've already cashed out on this, I don't think twice about the money I paid for it because it, honestly, it's been performing in every way I want it to. So I gotta give a thumbs up to that versatility. And to me, it was worth it, but to others, I could recognize why it might not be worth it, especially if you're on a budget. So that's all I gotta say about that. We're gonna see the price score right here. Enjoy. And before we get on to my overall score, I'm gonna throw up a list of a couple of shoes I think this shoe is similar to for a couple of different reasons. That might be the Hoka Mach 4, the Asics Nova Blast, and maybe even the New Balance like 1080 V11. Take a look at those. They're ranging price ranges, and if you're looking for something kind of like the shoe, but something cheaper and a little different, other brands, those are stuff to take a look at. And getting on to the overall score, we are looking at a 7.6 out of 10. That is a very solid score for a shoe that has stolen my heart and stolen many sections in my shoe rotation. So gotta give big love to that. Again, we talked about a couple of those issues like the price that are bringing it down and maybe my durability concerns, but overall, I've very much enjoyed the shoe and I can't wait to get more miles out of the Nike ZoomX Invincible Run Flyknit. That about does it today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate you all. Stay tuned for more. Much love, and until next time, y'all know the drill. Stay healthy, stay chill. Cheers, friends.